Welcome back to the $1 million Tipping Point podcast. Today we have Gaby Israel Grinberg. Now, as a reminder, we're brought to you by the Tipping Jar of Wisdom, where as a subscriber, you get access to exclusive content every Thursday straight to your inbox with actionable tasks from our guests that will help you grow your business. You can head over and connect with me on Instagram at virtually Kiri or LinkedIn, Kiri Mohan, and sign up through my bio. Also, if you're looking to start or grow your business, be sure to sign up for my monthly biz growth workshops, also found in my Instagram bio. So today, Gaby, hello.
Hello.
Gaby Israel Grinberg is the founder and chief experience officer at Proofpoint Marketing, which she started alongside her husband, Mike, following the premature birth of their daughter, Lana, as a way to build a people-first company that met their needs, both financially and professionally. Proofpoint Marketing helps you acquire the right customers by building relationships at scale, build trust and influence buying decisions by creating and distributing content that informs, educates, entertains, and inspires the right customers in channels that are actively engaged in. This is achieved with Proofpoint Marketing's proven relationship velocity framework, executed with a precise mix of strategy, demand generation, content development, and paid media. So thank you again. I'm so glad you could join the show.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Now, obviously, we were talking off air a little bit and how you had your daughter, Lana, who was born prematurely, and she was the catalyst of starting this business. Also, I think because it sounds like around 2017, your husband was running out of cash in the startup he was working for. So you both were in a tough place. Like you had your daughter prematurely and you were let go from your job. So tell us a little bit about that just really difficult time in your life. It must have been like, how do you keep going day by day?
Yeah. Well, it was, the timeline goes back to 2015. We were pregnant with our daughter. I was working for a company down at the time. We were living in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and both my husband and I were both in marketing, but for different jobs, different companies. At that time, we had a very strict separation of church and state policy, meaning we would never work together. We would never work in the same company. That was very clear. And it was actually a policy that we had talked about kind of when we started dating, because we didn't want our work to interfere with our relationship. Little did we know that the forces would conspire to move us directly to be working together and owning a business together. Even we started a podcast called Mixing Business with Pleasure, in which we interview other couplepreneurs that own a business or multiple businesses together. But at the time, 2015, we were newlywed. We were excited to become first-time parents. And our daughter was born severely premature. She was born 24 weeks gestation, which is just barely over halfway. Due to severe preeclampsia and HELLP syndrome, that put both my life and her life precariously in a very dangerous spot. It necessitated an emergency C-section, and she had a very long journey. She was in the hospital in the NICU for 6 months, 176 days. And to add insult to injury, you talked about this, Kiri, and it's on our website. Shortly after my C-section, I lost my job. So talk about insult to injury.
Is that in my head? Is that even legal? Was it? I mean, I feel like it shouldn't be legal.
It shouldn't be legal. There is a little bit of a legal loophole because we did look into pursuing legal action at the time. What we found, and as I said, we were living in Minnesota. I was working for a privately owned company that was less than 50 employees. So the Minnesota employment laws are really geared for companies that are 51 employees and over, whether it's private or public. But this was a small company, less than 50 employees. So in a way, it was a little bit of a legal loophole. Now it was legal by the eyes of the law in Minnesota, but it was certainly very unethical in many ways. There's a lot of choice words that I could use right now, but I'll keep it clean. The truth was, it was definitely an insult, and it was gut wrenching, and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, I just went through this emergency C-section. We've just delivered our child, who's fighting for her life. I'm barely out of surgery, and trying to figure out how to move, being halfway cut open, and then I lose my job. And not only did I lose my job, but I lost our income. And I was at the time the policyholder for our health insurance. So we had a tremendous amount of questions and concerns and fear going into it, not knowing what would happen with money, with insurance, with health, with our daughter. Most importantly, we were concerned about the health of our daughter. In the end, despite these challenges, despite losing the job, despite our daughter's early birth, despite the health challenges that I faced myself, I'm happy to say that it all worked out. And in many ways, it was a blessing in disguise, because we are where we are today. We started our business as a result of that first journey of our daughter, me losing my job. I became what I like to call a stay-at-hospital mom. I was a stay-at-hospital mom for 6 months. Then I transitioned to being a full-time caregiver for the next 18 months of my daughter's life. So almost 24 months in total, I was out of a job. I was fully a stay-at-home, stay-at-hospital mom and a caregiver to a child with medical needs. My husband at the time had gone through a couple of different job changes to make up the financial difference that we lost when I lost my job. And the last job that he had before us starting Proofpoint was at a startup. It was seemingly very well funded. It was led by some really top talent in Minneapolis. There was all signs pointed to this being a phenomenal growth and jumping point for my husband. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to us and everybody that worked at the company, there was a little bit of a scandal, and that there was some embezzlement going on. Somewhat of a Ponzi scheme. And 5 years later, the lawsuit is still in the process of being settled. Ooh. So it needless to say, he lost his job very unceremoniously because of some challenges that were happening at the ownership level of the company. And we found ourselves in another difficult spot in less than 2 years. First it was the premature birth of our daughter, then me losing my job. And now, about 2 years later, my husband is now finding himself without a job. So this was back in 2017. And we had a very difficult decision to make. And we said, well, we can either both go out and find jobs and take our chances, or we could do something for ourselves. We could enter into a business for ourselves, and we could stop letting the poor decisions of other people affect our lives and affect the careers of the future of our career, and the stability in our career. And we knew at the time that, gosh, we couldn't, we can't possibly be the only people that go through a medical emergency or some kind of family emergency and that need a different work situation. We just knew, this was, again, back in 2017, we just knew that we couldn't be the only ones out there that had gone through, whether it was prematurity or some other medical need, both either for themselves or their child or an elderly relative. And we said, the way that people do business today, the way that companies are run, the expectations that people have around business need to change. And so we decided that we were going to go off on our own. And that's in a nutshell how Proofpoint was started. There's one tiny detail that I inadvertently omitted, which is that after we left the hospital, so my daughter was in the hospital for 6 months, my husband started consulting. He took on a number of small projects, small clients on the side. So he had a full-time job, and then he would come home, have a little bit of a break with us, and then work pretty much until midnight. And I was round the clock caregiving for our daughter, who had some significant medical needs at that time. So that was putting the wheels in motion for starting Proofpoint, because fast forward to 2017, when he lost his job, he had a small cushion. We had a small cushion of those clients that he had been nurturing. And that allowed us to very comfortably move into what is now Proofpoint Marketing.
What changed your mind, I guess, more internally, deciding to work with your husband? Because you said, like, we were like very much like, we're never going to work together.
Yeah.
And then was it really just this necessity, or how did you guys decide, like, okay, we're going to make it work? Did you come out with rules like business ends here, we're not going to talk about it between 5 and 9 p.m. or something, like how did that shift happen?
It's a great question, because we get asked that all the time. I think in the moment, when we decided, and it was really over a weekend, we'd found out that the company was bankrupt, and that everyone was, it was like a Thursday, and then Friday he didn't go to work. So we had Friday, Saturday, Sunday to think about things. So really just materialized over the weekend. We knew, being in marketing, and maybe this was a little bit of hubris on our part, but we just thought, man, we could do it better. Like if people are letting people go during medical emergencies, and there's other people out there embezzling and creating Ponzi schemes and all sorts of illegal business activity and running it behind a company, a legitimate company, there's, the bar is pretty low at that point. We thought, well, the bar's been set pretty low. We can probably do this better. So it was a little bit of hubris. I think it was a little bit of necessity. It was a little bit of emergency, like, oh shit, what are we going to do? We need money. We have a daughter. She has needs. We have needs. We got to do something. And it was also this idea of, being in a committed relationship, having gone through what we went through as partners in life and as parents, it really made us stronger. Oftentimes, and I don't remember the statistic, but I know that when we were in the NICU, we had stumbled upon this statistic that said, X percentage of marriages crumble when a child is in a medical situation. Again, I don't remember the percentage, but it was staggeringly high, probably upwards of 50% or more. And we just, when we read that, we said, we're not going to fall into that statistic. We're not going to let this, whatever the outcome might be, we're not going to let this destroy us, because we love each other, we love our daughter, and we're going to fight to move forward. So coming out of that, those 2 years of the medical, of the NICU, and everything that came after that, we were really strong. We were great partners. We had learned to work together, learned to balance the needs of our daughter. So starting a business felt almost natural, felt easy compared to—
I was going to say, compared to like sleepless nights. And
right.
I'm sure your life for 2 years was just like tension, like, is she going to be okay? What's tomorrow going to bring? What is it? Because I know, having kids myself, just, that nervousness. So all of a sudden starting easier, like, oh, starting a business. It's like, okay, this is easy. We can figure it out.
Yeah. And that's really how it came about. And most importantly, there was a huge amount of trust. I think in any business relationship, whether you're working with a partner, working with a client, working with a vendor, working with employees, or colleagues, there needs to be a tremendous amount of trust. And who better for me to trust than my husband, and vice versa for him. So we now that isn't to say that we didn't make mistakes. We made plenty of mistakes. We stepped on each other's toes. We slowed each other down in the beginning, because we felt that we both needed to do everything. We both needed to be involved with everything. Slowly, little by little, we realized that, wait a minute, 2 heads are better than 1. We're trying to operate like one body. We are 2 different people. We've got 2 different skill sets, 2 different minds, 2 different areas of expertise. We can cover more ground if we use that as to our advantage. And that's exactly what, when we had that light bulb moment, which was not too early into, fairly early into our entrepreneurship journey, we realized, okay, we're slowing each other down by trying to do the same things. We can go much farther and faster and cover more ground if we play to each other's strengths. And so that was a huge turning point in our relationship, both as a married couple and as business owners.
So talk to me a little bit about your roles, both of your roles. I know that you said you work a lot with the remote culture side and the people side, and he deals more with the client side. So tell me actually about your role.
Yeah. So my role is that of Chief Experience Officer. And really if I had to, say that in one word, like what do I do? What does that mean? For me, it's all about, and I recently posted this on LinkedIn, my mantra in my role is touch points matter. I oversee every single touch point that our stakeholders have with Proofpoint. And my job is to shape and mold and create I hate that word unprecedented. Let me not use that word. To create exceptional experiences with our brand that our stakeholders can have with Proofpoint. So that includes our employees. That also includes our alumni. We have a number of employees that have left the company, but that we're still in very good communication with and good contact with. And they're still part of what I would consider to be our stakeholder group. That also includes clients and past clients. We have a number of past clients that are no longer working with Proofpoint, but for whom we reach out to, we talk to, we support them online, they support us, they refer business to us. So I think of in my role, I'm really looking at the ecosystem of our stakeholders and how to create unique and memorable experiences so that we can, most importantly, build relationships with these people and build long-term relationships at scale with these stakeholders in our orbit.
Can you think of any experience that you've created that has really stood out to you that you thought like we nailed it on the head? I feel so proud of myself.
Yeah. There's a few that we've been working on over the past few years, and a couple that we have for this year to really focus on. But I would say our biggest flex, if I can use that term.
I love that. No, I love it.
is offboarding, both client and employee offboarding. We went through a number of situations where employees have left or clients have turned over. And it's always an awkward song and a dance when an employee leaves or when a client leaves, especially in the agency world. And it's awkward for both parties, and there's always this period, this sort of interim period or exterim period where, you've given your notice or you've put in your 30-day, we have a 30-day out clause for our clients, meaning if they want to sever their contract with us, they have to provide a 30-day written notice. But then those 30 days, it's like that awkward silence, that awkward, weird period. And so I work with my team and we say, okay, what makes this so awkward and how can we not make it awkward? We kind of reverse engineer the problem. And then we come up with solutions and experiences so that we don't have that awkward moment, that clients are not frustrated or angry or disgruntled or feel that they have to change their posture or their attitude with us. And I also work very closely with my team to help coach their mindset on this mindset. We talk a lot about what we have this master framework, MSTR, and it's about mindset, skill set, tool set, and results. And whenever we are faced with a challenge, let's take, for example, offboarding, we will break that problem down using that master framework. What are the mindsets that our clients may be having or might have with us? What are the mindsets that we might have knowing that a client is leaving? And what are the mindsets that we want both parties to come out of this when the contract is done? Then we look at skill sets. What skill sets do we have? What skill sets do we not have? What do we need to work on? And then we also think about our clients. If they're leaving our company because they want to take the work in-house or because their budgets are changing. I mean, there's a number of reasons why a client might turn over. Not all of them are bad. Sometimes it happens. It's happened quite a few times where we have public clients that are purchased and they go through, a takeover. And then the company that buys them, the entity that buys the company, already has marketing resources. So they don't need us anymore, right? It's not that we failed or that the relationship was poor. It was that there's factors out of our client's control that then precipitates the change in marketing teams. So we try to look at it from all angles: mindsets, skill sets, tool sets. We say, okay, what do our clients need? And oftentimes what happens in the agency world is a client, there's turnover. And the hardest part is making sure that the client has all of the assets that we've created. Now we build a client-facing folder from the inception of the relationship. So from the very beginning of the relationship, any document, big or small, anything from an agenda to a meeting note to a POV document to a large deliverable gets put into that client-facing folder, and they have access to that at any point in the relationship. So by the time we're ready to transition, they have everything they need because it's already there. It's already built into that relationship model. But oftentimes it's making sure that the clients have what they need, or if they're taking on, for example, we do podcasting for a number of our clients. We have a client recently that turned over due to management changes and budget changes. And they said, well, we're going to take over the management of the podcast. And we said, great, we'll record a series of videos and we will do a number of trainings with you so that when after 30 days, you have, a living, breathing asset that will help you manage this work that you're now having to take on yourself. That was not in our contract. That was not something that the client had asked us to do. We weren't legally obligated to do that, but we felt that that was the best way to have a positive offboard with our client so that they wouldn't be scrambling to find resources, or that if they were truly going to manage their podcast in-house, they would have a detailed, document and video recordings of how to do that. And that was really in line with our ethos of the company, which is being people first. All that we do in all of our client and stakeholder relationships, we think about the people first experience. What would this person or these people need in this situation? And certainly going through client turnover sucks. It's painful, it's awful, and it's annoying and it's frustrating, and you've got to adjust your financial projections, and you've got to change, certain things around internally. But I told my team, we faced this head on, and I said, look, here's what it is. Here's the reality. Here's why this client is leaving. And here's what we're going to do to make sure that their offboarding is seamless and smooth. This just happened recently in November, so it's fresh in my mind. And we had one final call with our client on the 30th day after our contract was up. And I asked him, I said, I'm not going to use his real name. I'm going to say Jim. How was this offboarding experience for you? And verbatim, he said, this was the best experience I had breaking up with a vendor in my entire experience of working in marketing. You guys didn't change your attitude. You didn't make it awkward. You gave me everything I needed. You set up me and my team to be successful, even though you didn't have to. And I didn't once feel that there was any animosity or friction or frustration. And that was, that's an
win.
That's a huge win. That's an anecdote. It's not something that I can measure, right? It's not a KPI that's tied to a number, but it is an anecdotal example, a qualitative example of what I do as Chief Experience Officer. And a lot of what I do is not really tied to business numbers or hard KPI or data. It's really about the experience. How did we make somebody feel? So offboarding for me, that was an example on the client side. We have a number of examples of employee offboarding that I could also discuss, but it was tough because I had to really change the mindset of my team. One of my team members said, well, we've never done this before at other clients. If a client leaves, they leave, and, via con Dios, and, best of luck to you. I said, look, that's okay if you've done that in elsewhere, but that's not what we want here. Even if somebody is leaving, we want them to have a positive experience, because that's the final touch point that they may have with Proofpoint. And we want that to be a positive one. We want our client down the road to say, hey, look, I worked with Proofpoint. It didn't work out for me, or I had a number of reasons why I had to break up the relationship, but I can vouch for them. I like them. These guys are solid. And that's, to me, a client that leaves, but then becomes our champion down the road, is the exact experience that we're looking to build.
I wonder how much of that was affected by how you guys were, how you lost your job a week after, giving
100%.
birth, and then like your husband with that other startup. It's like, you learn from like, oh, this is not how we want to be treated. So
Yeah.
we're going to make sure that we don't treat anyone like this. Anyone.
That is a brilliant observation. And that is 100% true and very deliberate on our part. When we started our company, there was a few non-negotiables that my husband and I talked about. One of which is we knew that we wanted to hire employees. We knew that we didn't want this to just be a two-person shop. We wanted to grow. We wanted to have employees. The reason we wanted to have employees is because we knew that fundamentally the way people do business, and especially the way people do business in marketing, had been broken for a while. And we knew that based on our experience, the really lousy, awful, unethical, immoral experiences that we had in our career, we wanted to be able to positively affect others as much as we could, to show them that, hey, look, not all businesses are bad, not all company owners are awful, not all cultures are toxic. We wanted to really put our stake in the ground and change that and do something positive and try to affect as many people as we could. So we knew that to do that, we needed employees, and to grow to the level that we wanted to grow to, we knew that we needed a team behind us. So employees was a non-negotiable. And then being people first. We recently relaunched our culture book at the end of December. And we really, if we have a chance, I'll pull it up. And we looked at every single facet of culture. A lot of times companies start with mission, vision, and values. And we said, okay, that's great. That's table stakes. We need to go above and beyond that. If we want to be a company that is changing business norms, that's our vision. Our vision is to change tired and outdated business norms. We need to go above and beyond that. Mission, vision, and values is great, but we need more. So we looked at I took examples from everywhere that I could, and I sort of Frankensteined this idea of what culture means to us. And so above and beyond mission and vision values, we have something called ethos. Ethos is the defining characteristic of a company or brand or thing. And I really loved that. And so for us, we've always said throughout the beginning of our company, we're people first, people first, people first. And so being able to define that and have a really core place in our business was really important. So the ethos of our company is people first. And then, of course, we have mission, vision, and values. We also created leadership principles. Growing a company means you need leaders, and not just my husband and I as the leaders, but we have, we're growing people that are going to be managers, VPs, director level. And so often I've experienced this in my career. People move into leadership positions without enough or any kind of leadership training. I know I've experienced that in my career. Prior to starting Proofpoint, I worked for a Fortune 500 company in Minneapolis, big, huge company. My manager at the time told me, hey, look, I've never managed somebody. You'll be my first subordinate. And look, there's a first time for everything. I'm not certainly blaming her for never having had that opportunity. Everyone is going to do a first one time in their life. But I felt, and it was obvious to me, and she even admitted as much, she really didn't have enough training. She really didn't have enough coaching or mentorship. And so it was a poor experience for both of us. In the end, I didn't stay with the company. But I learned something. I learned a very valuable lesson that if you're going to be a leader, you need the training. Just like anything else, anything in life, you need training. You can't go to the gym one day and squat 5,000 pounds. I don't think anyone can do that. That's not realistic, but you understand the metaphor. You can't pick up something you've never done before and expect tremendous results. It takes baby steps. It takes time. It takes training. It takes form. It takes function. It takes you learning from others. And so just like anything, to be a leader, you've got to learn. So we have leadership principles, and that is what we expect everyone in a leadership position to aspire to act and to have those leadership principles top of their mind. We also have operating principles, and operating principles pertain to everybody, and that is how we operate as a business, how we make decisions, and how we work together internally and externally with our stakeholders. And then last but not least, I can actually, you know what, would you mind if I pull it up on the screen?
Of course. Let me see if I can share. There you go.
All right, let's see, here we go. So we created the Proofpoint Culture Pyramid. It starts with the owner's intent, and that is what success looks like in owning this business now. The fact that we're a privately held company, we're a husband and wife team, we really felt that it was important that everyone at Proofpoint understood why we own this business, what we want to get out of it. This is actually a concept. I didn't come up with this concept. It's a concept that I learned from somebody on LinkedIn, a serial entrepreneur whom I greatly respect and admire. His name is Casey Graham. He wrote a book, and this was a big part of the book. And normally I have the book at my desk. I don't, because I was reading it last night. But owner's intent was a new thing that we added to our culture book and our culture pyramid, because I felt that it was really important that people that work with us understood, why do we own this business? What do we want to get out of it? Ethos, as I talked about, is the characteristic spirit of our culture, and that's being people first. Vision, is the long-term aspirations of our organization. And for us, that is to change outdated business norms, tired and outdated business norms. Mission is, why do we do what we do? What is our mission? What do we do day in and day out? And that is to build deep relationships at scale for our clients. Our strategic brand narrative, this is also something new that we added to the culture book. It is not something that we ourselves created, but it is largely talked by, oh gosh, now I'm forgetting his name. He's a fellow on LinkedIn, has a very large following, and his name is escaping me now, but he, I think, if I'm not mistaken, is the father of a strategic brand narrative. And I know that he consults with a lot of big brands and startups in what a strategic brand narrative is and what it should do and how it should be part of your company. And my husband really likes this guy. Again, his name is escaping me. And we can't afford to pay for his services, but he's very open and very vocal about how somebody could go about building a strategic brand narrative. So we learned from him, and we built our strategic brand narrative, which is building relationships at scale. Leadership principles, operating principles we talked about. And then at the bottom of our pyramid, the base, everything that makes all of this possible is our core values. So this is, going back to what you said, Kiri, which is, hey, it seems like your experiences are very deliberate, and they're really, a direct correlation to what you experienced as poor experiences. You're absolutely correct. And we wanted to make sure that our employees had a strong foundation and a strong, solid understanding of what that means and what that looks like at Proofpoint. So there you have the Proofpoint Culture Pyramid.
It's very in depth, and really, first word that came to mind was beautiful, but I feel like that's
Thank you.
but I'll try to find a better word, but it's very, what's the right word? Because it's in depth, but it's very you can feel your branding through it. You can feel your, what you're saying with your ethos, the time and the effort that you put into this, not only to show your employees what you stand for, but just to be so clear that this is what's guiding you every single day.
Yeah. Thank you.
It's really nice.
Thank you so much.
So talk to me a little bit about growing to $1 million. How long did it take you to get there?
Yeah. Well, we hit our first million in 2022. We went and it was a hard-earned victory, especially coming off of 2020 and 2021. Those were very difficult years for us. A lot of lessons learned. We pretty much 180'd our entire business after the pandemic. And starting towards the end of 2020, beginning of 2021, that's when we really honed in on creating a strategic brand narrative. We achieved our first million in 2022, and that was very deliberate. We want to grow not only to a 6-figure, 7-figure shop. We want to grow to an 8-figure agency. So we are on track this year to double that. And it was really as a result of just honing in on our strategic brand narrative of a lot of marketing agencies will do everything for everyone in terms of, hey, you need this kind of service. Hey, we can do that for you. You want paid media? We can do that for you. You want emails? We got you. We can do that for you. And that business model works for a lot of agencies out there, but we didn't want to be another commodity shop. We didn't want to be another Me Too agency because of what we went through in our careers, because of the journey that took us to build our company and the culture and the ethos and everything behind it. We said that we want to be really deliberate about the services that we offer, about the experience that our clients have with us, and about this, basically how we approach marketing. What is our unique point of view when it comes to marketing? So between end of 2020, beginning of 2021, that's when we really 180'd our business. At that point, we were kind of doing marketing for all peoples at all costs, at all expense. And we said, okay, this model is not sustainable. Not only can we not grow to the extent that we want to, it's just not in line with the culture that we're building internally. We want our clients to feel like they're getting something unique, special, different, not a commodity. They're getting something that is really well thought out and that approaches their business, not just from one tiny sliver of the marketing pie, but really approaches their entire business needs. And that's really how we think about marketing is it's not just one little slice of the marketing pie. It's what do you need in your business to grow, to reach your targets, and how can marketing support that? So it's oftentimes if people look at marketing and say, okay, well, we should do a newsletter. We should do this. We should do that. We should do that. No. What are the business needs? What are the business goals? What are the goals that you're trying to achieve as a company? And then let's determine what the right strategies and tactics are that marketing can support that. So that's
almost like you flip it, right? Like instead of the client coming towards you and saying, this is what I need, you say, pause, wait a second. Correct. Is that really what you need?
Correct. Yeah.
What do you think has been your best and worst investment so far?
Best investment, 2 things: sales training and investing in our employees. In 2020, pandemic time, chaos ensuing all around us, clients leaving, we realized that we didn't have a marketing problem because we knew how to market. My husband and I have been in marketing for 17 plus years. We know marketing. Marketing wasn't the problem. The problem was sales. We had a sales problem. We had a business development problem. We did not know how to generate business. And the world was changing. 2020 was a huge catalyst for people making different kinds of business decisions, different ways of approaching business. We had all the foundations in terms of our culture, in terms of our marketing expertise, but we really didn't know how to effectively sell. And the best investment that we made, we took a portion of the PPP money that we received at that time, and we invested it in sales training. We did a 6-month, my husband and I did a 6-month intensive sales training with a very reputable sales coach who also happens to work alongside his wife. We interviewed him on our podcast, Mixing Business with Pleasure. A relationship ensued, and we realized that there was a very good reason why we interviewed him, which was so that we could learn from him and work with him. And we, as I said, we invested a portion of our PPP money in sales development. And to this day, that has been the best investment that I think that we've made. That and employees. We just went through our 2023 plan with our team. We operate in a very open book style, and we had a pie chart on our presentation that showed every single line item in our budget. And overwhelmingly, over 70% of our operating budget is focused on salaries, benefits, and team experiences. So, and that's really, again, in line with our ethos. We're people first. If we're people first, then that needs to be reflected in all areas of our business, including our budget. So to me, those are the two best investments that we've made and will continue to make. The worst investment, unfortunately, has happened at the cost of ill-fit hires. I never understood the concept of hire slow, fire fast until I became a business owner. And we've had, unfortunately, I mentioned earlier in the conversation that we have a number of alumni that are really positive and huge champions of Proofpoint. We also have a few employees that were ill fits, that just were detractors, that were not the right fit for the company for a variety of reasons. And that has been the worst investment, because it does cost the business a lot of money, a lot of time, most importantly, morale. When you have a bad egg in a bunch, it does have a tendency for a period of time to bring others down with it. And that has plagued us as being some of the worst investments that we've made.
Have you changed your hiring process to hopefully weed out ill fits sooner than later?
Yes. That was a huge experience that I worked on in 2021 and continued to make some improvements in 2022. That was the first experience that we knew we needed to affect and fast, because we, as I said, we were marketers first. Then we had to learn to become business owners and work together as husband and wife. Then we had to learn to become salespeople. And now we're learning to become HR pros. I have a little bit of experience working in the HR world in my previous jobs. I did a lot of employer branding initiatives with some of my previous marketing positions. So it gives me a little bit of, a view into HR and people, but because of the culture and what we're trying to do and our mission and our vision, a lot of the examples out there are not the things that we want to do here. We want to break the mold in some of these people experiences and people operations and HR. So yes, hiring, recruiting, onboarding, those are some of the big and some of our first experiences that I worked on as Chief Experience Officer. And thankfully, we've now made some tremendous hires. We have a team of 6 full-time staff, all phenomenal. And we're looking to double in size by the end of 2023.
Wow, I hope so.
Thank you.
Based on everything you're saying, I hope success comes for you, because I'd like to see you guys continue to grow and grow and grow, especially with all the ethos that you've been talking about, the ethos and the people first and the benefits you give to your employees. It sounds like it's going to be an amazing company.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
What advice do you have for other women as they grow their business or want to hit that $1 million tipping point?
Let's see. Lean in to your support, whatever that might look like. Whether it's family, a spouse, friends, your cleaning lady. If you don't have one, get one. Whatever support system you need. Nannies, early days into Proofpoint, our daughter was about 2 when we started Proofpoint. She still had some medical needs at that time. And I told my husband, I said, I can't run this business if I don't have the appropriate caregiver for Lana. And we were able to find some tremendous nannies that have become part of our family. They all had medical experience background, caregiving background, and they were able to really allow me the peace of mind knowing that, and I was working from home still, and I still am, but they were downstairs with my daughter. I was upstairs working, and that gave me the complete peace of mind. So women entrepreneurs, I think more than men, and I hope this doesn't come out sounding sexist or anything, but I do think that we need to lean into our support system and build our support system more than men, because so much of the house responsibilities and the food responsibilities and the cleaning responsibilities and the child raising responsibilities and the parent teacher conference, and I got to print the holiday cards, and I've got to buy the costume for the play, and all these things just inevitably pile up on our shoulders. So first and foremost, lean into your support, find your support. If you have to pay for your support system, there is no shame in that. I have a cleaning lady. At one point, we had round-the-clock medical care for our daughter with our nannies, round-the-clock business clock, not in the evenings, but 9 to 5, we had nannies. And also there is no shame in seeking counseling. With the medical challenges that I went through and becoming a full-time caregiver to a child with medical needs, I needed counseling. I needed help. I needed somebody to unpack everything that was going on inside my brain. So, first and foremost, you don't need to go through a medical challenge or a family tragedy to need counseling. Counseling is and always will be a valuable and valid need for people. We're human. We have that need. So counseling, if that's something that you're open to or you need or you feel would be helpful, there's no shame in that. Leaning into your support system. And then last but not least, I would say if you're a female entrepreneur today, and you're not on social media and you're not on LinkedIn or maybe TikTok or Instagram, or you don't have a podcast, really think about that. I was very hesitant at first we've now, my husband and I now started 3 podcasts, and it took me 3 years to feel comfortable to finally agree to do a podcast. And I'm sort of kicking myself in the butt. I said, why didn't we do this earlier? So think about a podcast, think about LinkedIn, about what do you stand for? What is your professional voice? What is your POV on the service or product or company that you have? In today's business currency, transparency is king. That's what I truly believe. The only way that you're going to stand out and get ahead is if people know who you are. And the only way that people are going to know who you are is if you make a point to putting it out there. And that is a big change in today's business currency and today's business landscape.
Have you, excuse me, have you faced any hurdles specifically as a woman growing and running the business?
Only one that I can remember, and that really affected me. I was working with a vendor for our podcasts. As I said, we have started 3 podcasts, and a few years ago we decided. And at that point, my husband and I we were doing everything. We were doing the write-ups, the recordings, the social media clips, the everything. I mean, and as a podcaster, that running a podcast is a lot of work.
So much time and so much money.
Work.
Yeah.
So we decided, okay, you know what? Let's be smart about this. Let's outsource some of this work. So we found a vendor. Long story short, it wasn't a great partnership. We weren't pleased with the output. We weren't pleased with the experience. It wasn't in line with the brand that we were hoping to build through our podcast. So we politely said, look, you know what? This isn't working. We're going to part ways. Let us know what we owe you. Please send along the assets, and best of luck. It happened to be, I was managing the podcast myself. My husband was doing other things in the business. The vendor whom we were working with was a man. And I think that he really laced into me pretty hard. He was rude. He was very egregiously upset about me wanting to break up with them. I don't know. It's probably a stretch to say whether this was because I was a woman or not. Maybe it was just his personality. Maybe he didn't take rejection very well. It's water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. I don't know that it hasn't affected me. It hasn't changed anything for me. At the time, I was very upset. I felt as though had Mike, my husband, been on that call, on that breakup call, I wonder if this person would have acted the same way. The fact that I was a woman, he was pushing me around. Again, it's
one of those like fine line. You're like, I have a feeling, a gut feeling and a hunch, but I can't prove it.
Right. And as I said, that's a very, very minor situation. I'm very lucky that that in all of my business relationships, I've been met with a tremendous amount of respect, and I've been met with a tremendous amount of courtesy and respect. So that's really the only time where I felt belittled, and I felt that I was treated without respect. But again, it's hard to prove whether it was because I was a woman or whether it was because this person just didn't take rejection very well, or if I caught him at a bad time. It's really hard to say one way or another. So in the grand scheme of things, to really answer your question, I've been very, very lucky that as a businesswoman, as a female businesswoman, I've been met with a tremendous amount of respect and courtesy so far as an entrepreneur.
Thank you for sharing everything that you've shared with us. Can you tell us where we can find you, your website, LinkedIn, all of that?
Yes. So the website is www.proofpoint.marketing. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's linkedin.com/Gabriella with 2 L's Israel. And that's really where you'll find me spending a lot of my time is on LinkedIn. You can also check out our podcast. We have the Master Marketer Show, in which we use that MSTR framework that I talked about earlier, mindset, skill set, tool set, results. We bring on B2B marketing leaders and we talk about case studies, we break it down with that framework. So we have the podcast, LinkedIn, my website. That's where you can find me.
Thank you. Thank you. What is one philosophy, mantra, or quote that you try to run your business by?
Good question. I haven't found such an elegant way to say this. So I'm going to try to say it because it's in my head, it's in my heart. I just haven't found an elegant way to say that. And is that my mantra as a person, but also as a business owner, is that for however long somebody is in my life, whether that's 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 hours, 5 years, whatever it is, however long that I'm with somebody, that they can step away from our relationship, step away from me, from the interaction, and have gained something positive. I hope to positively affect everyone that I meet in any way, shape, or form, small or big, long-term, short-term, medium-term, whatever that may be. That is my goal, that people come to me for, whether it's because they work here, whether because they're looking to pick my brain, whether because they need advice, and that they can walk away feeling like they were positively impacted by that interaction.
I think anyone who meets you will feel like that. I mean, I do honestly think that just from this brief conversation. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people and I can tell sometimes the people who are a little bit more standoffish, a little bit more hesitant, and you're not. You're just, I think you have that warm, effusive personality that I think anyone who comes in contact with you will leave with a positive experience.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing so much with us. Really appreciate it. And for all our listeners, please subscribe to the email newsletter and you will get the exclusive content straight to your inbox. Thank you again.